So this is probably the most exciting time as a homeowner when their house is in this stage. So I'm gonna show you the inside. They just got done with electrical, plumbing, insulation. So it's all ready for sheetrock. And then I'm gonna meet the builder here in a little bit and he's gonna show us all the goodies that they installed in this house.
How tall is this, Dennis? Like 10 or?
Like 87 feet,
I
I'm
know.
thinking.
It's awesome. It's such like a grand entry, and then you have that amazing view straight into the back. What do they call that on that show we were watching? A shotgun house?
Yeah, where you go straight through. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks about this. When your porch is like that, you know, in our house, how we don't have anything in that area.
Yeah.
It's so dark in the living room. You can just see all the natural light coming in. Like, that's a really good tip for homeowners. If you have a porch like that, consider those windows because all that natural light is gonna make it just not feel so dark in here all the time. I was a fly on the wall while Jonathan was talking to the homeowner. They're gonna end up building out this area. Not during this build, but later on they're gonna end up building out, you know, a nice backyard area, kind of cooking spot. And I think they're gonna end up putting a sink here. And he said, just leave the pipes stubbed out. Jonathan, I could just see him when the homeowner was telling him this. He's like, leaving it stubbed out. He didn't really want to. He's like, how about this? We'll frame in a plumbing access panel so that you can access all the plumbing that you need when you decide to build this out later. Inside here will be the plumbing so that they can access that plumbing later on. And in the meantime, they have a nice, clean looking, intentional area so you wouldn't know kind of what that is at first glance. So maybe it takes them 2 years to do this. It still looks good and a nice finished product. So this will be the master bedroom. So they used interior insulation just to help bring down that noise transfer from the living room. If you have an open floor, what?
Are we sure it's noise transfer from the living room or noise transfer from the bedroom?
Whatever you decide, whether it's the noise leaving the bedroom or coming into the bedroom. That's hilarious.
Another protected tub.
You see this gray?
Yeah.
That's a coating they put on it. It's a fire retardant. What I like about that is I kind of want to do spray foam in my shop because it's just not insulated. It's just metal walls. Doing this and then going with, I'm sure you could dye it, go with a black, and that would look clean. So that's an option. If you end up having to spray foam something like a building, the fire retardant that gets applied on top, you could just change the color. Boom. Ew! Are you scared to come over here?
Yeah.
Just take one step. Come on.
This is freaky. This is not safe.
You're like 100 feet away from each side.
I don't care.
Gosh, I wish I had my phone to show.
I feel like it's gonna like
Look,
tilt.
let me see. Let me see. There she is. Scared to death. Look at all the room she has on each side. I've noticed on some of the builds, you know, in the suburban neighborhoods, this is a full custom house, but some of the builds inside these neighborhoods where they're just knocking them out really fast, they don't have these long runs that you see here. So this is rigid duct lines all the way down as far as they can, and then they'll end up going with the flex duct. And the reason that is, I was actually asking the guy when he was installing these, he said primarily it's the pressure. Because inside here it's nice and smooth, but in here it has little ridges inside and that kind of messes up with the flow of air. So you want that nice solid pressure all the way through and it not to be restricted at all. And then when you get down near the end, that's when you can put in your flexible duct line. So that's just something to think about. If you're having your house built and maybe you want to mention that to the builder, like, hey, are we doing rigid duct lines, like long rigid duct lines? It's just better. And for cleaning, there's nothing to get caught inside those duct lines either because those ridges aren't there.
Hey!
There's Jonathan. Let's get on there. So this is Jonathan, the builder. We're going to hook him up with a mic here. Those gimbals work out good either way. The issue that we're having is if you look on, you see that thing sticking off her phone?
Yep.
That is the receiver for these mics.
Okay.
So we cannot get Bluetooth on two mics onto there because then when you put the gimbal on there, it just hits.
It just hits, yeah.
So it's just one problem leads to another.
Yeah.
So we had our installation inspection Monday, so passed it. So first of next week we'll start hanging.
Do you still have your record going?
Yeah.
Passing inspections all the way through?
Yeah, all the way through.
Yeah,
So we're good on the first try. So
nice.
And then exterior, we do primer coat first. This house is getting black, so all of our caulking and everything will be black. That way, if you do have any type of expansion and contraction. With a white caulk and a black house, you're going to be able to see everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this way, if you have a black caulk, then if it does move, separate a little bit because you're going to have some movement, you won't notice it as much. So
that's right. We're gonna have to edit that out.
Yeah.
The black caulk.
Sorry. Yeah. I was going to say I had to make sure that I pronounced that perfectly.
Black caulk.
You have to say that.
Dude, put it in drive. Put it in drive, man. All right, let's go check this thing out. Yeah. So this will be a bathroom, and I know you ran into issues with the floating vanity. Is that what it was?
Yeah, so this will be a floating vanity. It'll extend out, probably somewhere around 20 inches, something like that. This particular valve we haven't used before. So this actually is a spout, and so it's a wider spout that comes out.
Is that where it kind of like rolls off
Correct,
like a waterfall?
rolls off it, right. And so then you have a single control valve. The issue with this valve is it's made for it to go in like drywall like this, but we're going to have actual backsplash on this piece, right? So we have to account for that space. So what we're going to have to do is when we do our drywall, we're going to drywall around this framing, and as we drywall that, we're going to leave it out, right? So this way, this is open. Then once we have our backsplash in there, we will actually cut out the backside of that backsplash material because it's going to be like 1.25 inches or something like that.
Yeah.
And that way, by the time we do drywall, we'll have to route out probably about maybe 1/2 inch. So we'll have to do that on the backside so this valve will fit flush on the front side.
Is it pretty typical to insulate the interior walls of bathrooms?
Not normally. You probably won't see that on, probably some of your custom homes you'll see it. Sound is your biggest thing, obviously. Right. So we try to find those areas that are going to be community spaces to where it's like if somebody's in the bathroom, you're not hearing them from the other side. And then same thing on the master bedroom wall. Like if that TV's going or whatever, you have people over late, whatever, like there is the master bedroom that has some type of separation with some insulation in it. One other good area to insulate is if you do have living space above. Not everybody's going to spend the money for this, but you can sound insulation inside that also, even though it might not need it. But then there's also a type of product that you can put on the subfloor on top that goes under the flooring.
One of those things though that's like it's now or never.
Yeah.
You're not going to
get that. You're not getting that back. And most of the time people don't even think about that until their kids are running around or somebody's running around upstairs and it gets loud. So
too late.
Yeah.
How tall are these doors? These are not standard doors.
So standard for us is if we have a 10-foot ceiling, we like to do 8-foot doors. Most of our houses are 10-foot ceiling. If you look behind you, that's actually a 12-foot ceiling in the office over there. So it is a little bit taller in that section. Doesn't mean that the budget always allows it, but we do like to, if we're doing 8-foot tall doors, we would love to do a solid core door. When you get an 8-foot tall door, it tends to warp if it's an MDF or
really?
And MDF doors aren't as bad as some of your other ones, but there's some when they start getting 8 foot tall, they can warp.
I have not heard that. That is so good to know.
Yeah. It also depends on how you store them. So like, for instance, if you take your 8-foot tall doors that are masonite doors that are hollow and you lean them up against a wall, right, and you start putting a ton of weight up against them, they're going to start bowing, you think about it, because the top point is your pressure point and the bottom, and then like when you stack a bunch of stuff up against it, they can bow. So do not stand them straight up vertically. Horizontal would be the way to want to store them.
We got to know all this stuff. I'm glad we're recording it because, dude, that is a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, this is one of my favorites that I've seen recently. This cast iron pipe.
Yeah.
Instead of a sewer line that's PVC, which is where most places you're just going to see a PVC pipe come down.
Right, yeah. And so this for us is for sound. So if it's a PVC pipe, it's going to echo when somebody flushes the toilet up there.
We don't hear that in our house at all, huh,
Kimmy? In the kitchen. So this is one of those things where it's like, this pipe might cost us $100 extra
man,
to install, but it's when you have a living space like this. If it was off like in a back area, a closet or whatever, it's not a big deal. But this is right off the kitchen.
Yeah, that powder room doesn't have it, and it's out of the way. You'll never hear it.
Right. So that's why we decided to go with those on most of our builds to try to just eliminate that noise.
I love that.
That's so smart because our upstairs bathrooms, the PVC pipe
runs right through.
Entryway.
Yes.
So,
I was so excited to show you that.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yep. One of the things that I noted when I walked into this house is how you guys did the tray ceilings to kind of divide the rooms.
Yep.
Was that a builder, designer?
So that was the designer plan for this one. They're still on the fence. They were going to do some beams inside of each of these trays. They wanted it to feel separate. And when you have a flat ceiling like this, sometimes the only way you're able to do that is like either with lighting or furniture trying to make it divided is to where when you do this, like it's going to feel separate because of the way the ceiling kind of divides. Our wafer lights that are here, they're going to divide this space, right? So when these are on, this will feel like a whole different space.
Oh, yeah, I see, yeah.
You know,
I bet your HVAC guys loved having that ceiling to run their duct
Oh,
lines.
they did, yes, that was helpful. You know, we use the I-joists on a lot of projects because we can cut through them in certain places, right? But it is a little bit more difficult for them to cut a hole in each one all the way through. So having this little drop-down ceiling was definitely helpful for them.
Yeah, see all the markings? Who wouldn't want to accidentally nail into that?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like even us marking all this stuff happens. We just had a project where we added some additional cabinetry, like shelving, in a spot where a line set was at. And at this point, it's so far along the build that they added it, it's like all our markings are covered up.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they threw it in there, shot a nail right to the
Damn.
line set.
But it's all the things that you don't know that would have went wrong, right?
Right.
It's all the things that you avoided. You'll never know that you avoided them, but
Right. Yeah,
so
and I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. I mean, that's rare. I mean, since we started marking, you know, line sets, like our trim guys haven't hit as many of those.
yeah.
Siding guys
So
were
you're
always,
seeing the difference then.
yeah, there's a difference. I mean, but you know, at the end of the day, like you can only prepare yourself so much for so many problems.
Yeah,
and
things are gonna happen.
Sometimes things will just happen, but
Yeah, this one stands out to me the most. You guys go blood red on the back side of these lines.
Yeah,
So the siding dudes
So the
don't?
siding guys were the ones that used to hit everything most of the time. Those are the ones that we had our biggest issues
Really?
with were the siding. But I will say, depending on your siding crews, even though we mark it, our siding crew still comes inside and measures
To make sure they're not hitting anything?
make sure they're not going to hit anything.
Dang.
So. And we try to do that before installation because you can imagine you can't see everything behind here. So we try to have the siding guys come before installation so that they're able to measure off a corner and we'll mark it for them. So at least if they know, like, hey, there's a marking here,
It's
there's
a stop
something here.
sign.
Like, let me go measure. So then they'll go
Yeah.
outside, they'll pull a tape, and they'll measure it and check it.
That's awesome, man.
We could never have a guest room this nice. Your parents would want to move in.
I know. Can't do it.
Most people say they don't want a nice guest because they don't want people to stay.
Yeah.
So
Staying too long. Do you say conduit or conduits?
conduit.
I say conduit.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm seeing everyone say conduits. We put
So-
down the conduits, and I'm like,
I think when you're talking about, like, I don't think it is like plural like that. I always say just
neither.
conduit.
yeah, conduit.
Yeah,
And it could be one, and it could be 10.
You might be talking to the same people that say deers and deer. Like,
Deers, yeah. Yeah.
like I saw some deers. Like, no, you saw deer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the exact same phrase.
Are they going to put their TV over the fireplace?
Yes, so they'll have the TV over the fireplace. Obviously, the fireplace is covered
Oh,
up.
it's too bad it's covered,
Yes,
yeah.
We'll have an access panel right here. So
Oh,
this will be all where
dang.
their
I didn't even
equipment-
notice the framing right
Yeah,
here.
so this will be where all their equipment is. There's insulation right here, but we're actually going to take this out because this fireplace is pretty high tech here. It's actually got a control panel right here. So this will actually do a drywall return, or excuse me, a drywall access panel right here so that we can access this and they can program it if they ever need to.
So this will be a panel, and then that'll be a panel?
So this will be like cabinet doors style. This will actually be RE Event or Fitties, I think, has one where it's actual like a drywall access panel. So it kind of goes
blends
away.
in.
It kind of blends in, but this one will actually be a set of like cabinet style.
Man, I love this. That is so awesome.
So
Because you know, a lot of times it's hidden inside the cabinets or the built-ins that are on each side.
Yeah. And so
that
this
tucks
one,
it
the
away.
way this one is, it doesn't really have, like, one of the built-ins is all glass, and so you don't want to
Yeah.
see the equipment there. Right?
Man, I like this so much better because, and it's out of the way. It's on the way to the bedroom, so it's just not something that's going to stand out to you. Man, that is so smart.
The room in the entryway, what is the media enclosure there for?
So that's your central like hub essentially, right here. Every Cat 6 cable that we have is all ran here.
Got it.
Okay. And so this will be our hub for everything that's here. That over there is going to be specifically for your receiver. Also, they're going to do Sonos speakers in here,
Hell
so they'll have
yeah.
all their equipment there for that. If you're going to if you do cable, your cable box can go in that space too.
Yeah, so it's
that's
everything almost TV related, sound, all that stuff.
just for the living room.
Going
That's
there.
just for the living room. So that blue Cat 6 line that you see over there is ran to here, right?
Yeah, you
And
can-
then they have this tube is ran outside, and you have one line that comes out and feeds the outside, so that you don't have all of these wires all stubbed out of the house.
Yeah.
See? So this is an added feature. Most of your builders will be doing this. Sometimes they won't, and they'll bring every wire that you have has to get stubbed out to the outside, and they'll actually mount a box on the outside to hook all of those up with.
That would make me barf.
Yeah.
It's like that was all my focus is that just makes all the sense in the world because everything's just going smart home.
Yep.
You got to have it in that one central location, man.
Yep.
That was a good question, Kippy.
I have another question. So
All right, that's too many questions. You've gone too far.
I'm seeing spray foam insulation. Some of it's gray, some of it's white. The gray is flame retardant, but why are we only doing some of it flame retardant?
So they actually ran out of the fire retardant.
Dude, I was just about to say that. I was like, they ran out. That's why.
So they actually have to come back and
Hell
seal that.
I gave a very official response, and she asked me earlier. I was like, well, it probably has to do with fire blocking. Very similar. You'd have fire blocking here. It probably just doesn't need it. And then I saw that. I'm like,
so they actually
that's
ran out
different.
of that section that's there.
That's so
and so they'll actually paint that part.
So I was telling her I want to do spray foam in our building and just have it painted black. You can just use a fire retardant black, and then it almost gives it a better finish.
Right. And to be honest with you, we've never used that, so I'm sure there's probably you can add it and make it black.
Just a dye, yeah.
But if you don't, they can paint it with this fire retardant, and you can come back and spray it black if you need to.
Really?
I'm sure that they can. Some states don't require the fire retardant on the foam, so we build some in South Carolina in the McCormick area. And that county did not require that a couple years ago, but now they actually are requiring it this year. So
seems like a go-to.
The problem with that is you got to be careful because if you are working in those states, you better make sure that you know what the latest code is because this fire retardant right here could cost you $4,000 or $5,000, and if it's not in the budget, and you're saying
someone's paying for it.
Correct. So
dang, those are clean, man. I like these.
We'll also do our gas valve right here inside that. You can do them where they're stubbed out, but we're going to put this one in here, and we'll have just a little quick access to it.
Yeah, I think that would look way better.
And then we have another access panel down on that end, which is for their future outdoor kitchen.
Yes.
So instead of running your plumbing lines and everything out of it, we actually just have our drain and our supply lines inside here. And so once you figure out, hey, we're going to put them in here, then we'll stub them out. But this looks cleaner. Like this will be painted black. Like this looks way cleaner than you just having like 2 water lines and then a sewer line stubbed out of there. And you have people over, and this is just hanging out the side of the wall.
Yeah,
so this will look way cleaner.
I was telling Kippy the story of I was standing back here when you were talking to the homeowner, and the homeowner's like, yeah, just leave it stubbed out, and I could just see your wheels turning, and you're like, I don't want to leave it that way.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like they're just not ready or a budget doesn't let them do this now.
Well, smart on the homeowner. I mean, he is so squared away with that, like thinking ahead and trying to plan ahead. I like the control joints that you put in here.
Yeah.
But I would be so nervous because you got to make sure you got the right dudes doing that.
I've
seen some rough cuts before.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sometimes you can cut it too early, and it's happened to us before. If the concrete's not cured, there's like a gray area. There's a happy medium where it's like you got to hit it perfect so it doesn't get too hot and start cracking. But at the same time, you don't want to cut it too early because if you cut it too early, then it's a little brittle and your edges will kind of chip off and break. So
I've seen that before. Is there like a time frame that you shoot for, or it just depends on the time of year?
Well, it all depends on the time of year. Like how much humidity was in the air, how hot is it outside or is it covered?
Yeah.
Was there wind that day?
Do you just rely on all the concrete guys to?
I mean, we kind of rely on the subs that we have. They kind of know when to cut it, and there's been situations before where we've cut it a little too early.
Yeah.
We haven't had any issues with cracking too much as far as like we did it too late, cut the control joint too late, because sometimes in the summertime it dries too fast, and if you don't get the proper joints in there, then it can crack. Concrete's tough because concrete's gonna crack.
Yeah.
It's a matter of when. The whole point of this joint here is to try to control it. The temperatures involved, how much water gets put into the concrete mix. Did the guy at the plant mix it right? How long was he sitting at the gas station before he brought it over here? Like, there's so many different variables that go into the concrete side of things as far as...
That's a common question on my Facebook group. Like, is this crack okay?
Yeah.
And I will say there are some shocking cracks.
Yeah. Now, if you get a crack that's, if you start getting some elevation changes, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different structural cracks. But if it's just expansion cracks, usually
that's a really good way to put it. Elevation changes is when you got to start being worried. That's when it's structural. Oh, I love that.
That's when it's structural. Expansion joint cracks are just going to be cracks that are going to be the same plane. You're not having any up and down movement.
Just your regular spider-looking type.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the working kitchen. If they ever go to sell this house, that's going to be a huge feature.
Dude, that pantry is massive.
And to be honest, like we've started doing a lot more of the working kitchen pantry type stuff. So in the future, the houses that that we might design some and build some higher end custom stuff and offer for sale, like we're going to try to incorporate larger pantry areas like that, working pantries.
Yeah, I can see that definitely being the move.
Some of them will do a sink and a dishwasher inside the working pantry along with what you already have.
So like, sink and dishwasher out in the main area too?
And in the main area. Because
expensive.
Yeah. But the idea of that is like if you have people over and you have all this stuff, it's like, do you really want this kitchen to be like junked up with dishes and everything in there, having to do that stuff, where you could easily put everything in the working kitchen part of it, sink, dishwasher, have that messy, and when you have guests, everything still looks clean and like really nice in the.
It's perfect for entertaining, man.
So.